Alright guys, we're back. I took a little break, got some lunch and whatnot. I got a little excited, forgot to set up the camera, and started pulling the carb. So all I did is I pulled the vacuum line off the carb, which I pulled both ends off and I realized it was screwed down there, so this side can stay. Put that back on. I loosened up the carb to the intake and I took off the fuel line. So and I disconnected the throttle cable from there. So you guys, it's kind of more of a tuning video versus how to pull the carb. It's going to be different depending on what kind of scooter you're running. So what we're going to do now is we're going to loosen up the throttle cable. That way we can take the throttle cable off so we can completely remove the carb, which is nice and stuck on there. There we go. So we're going to loosen up the throttle cable, disconnect the throttle cable completely, and that should allow me to pull my carb completely out. I've got my my fuel line tucked up there. So when you pull it, just be careful, you are going to lose some fuel. Just tuck it up so it's kind of high and it doesn't drain onto the ground and whatnot. So there we go. The carb is completely off. If you see, don't do like I did. You should have some still stuck in there. So we're going to drain that out. Alright, so I got the carb off and drained. These screws are usually really tight. So I got 2 of them loose, and then the other 2 started to strip. So if that happens to you, before you really start to strip them out, it's really common. I haven't had this carb open yet, so it's another reason why they're so tight. Take a pair of pliers. Channel locks are nice and big, or vice grips work really well. Put your pliers or vice grips on there, and make sure you hold it really tight, and go ahead and turn until you hear it crack loose. I know a lot of people say they change these screws out. I'm sure I'll be in this carb again, so I'll change them out next time. But I used the pliers on 2 of them before I really started to strip them out. So make sure you don't completely strip them out in case you don't have any, you're not forced to go get more. I should note that no matter how well you drain this carb, there's gonna be fuel in it. It likes to hide all kinds of places, so be prepared for that. Alright, we take the fuel bowl off, and if you see there's still some fuel in there. Ooh, that's some nastiness in there too. Definitely need to clean that bad boy out. But you have your 2 jets there, jet there and a jet there. That's going to be your main jet and your pilot jet, and that's going to be what we're changing out. I bought a kit, so I have both of those jets. So we'll go ahead and pull them out, and then we will put the new ones in. So be very careful with these, because these are brass, so it's not going to be hard to strip them out or break them. And like that one is really tight, I need to get a bigger screwdriver. So let's go ahead and grab a bigger screwdriver and do this properly, so that way I don't do exactly what I'm telling you not to do. Alright, so with the proper size screwdriver, get down in there and pull out your jets. Got this one first. This one next. Okay. So actually that one's still pretty new. Like I said, I haven't opened this up. Keep in mind when I give you these sizes, yours are going to differ depending on mods, where you live at, carb size, everything else. Engine, if you're doing the same thing but it's on a Git, obviously it's going to have different jet size. So my main jet is a 102. And my pilot jet is a 35. So I'm going to go down 1 size on each of these, and I'm going to spray some carb cleaner in here and also clean this out, because I see a little bit of kind of like rust stuff in there. So go ahead and let me get my jet kit and my carb cleaner and we'll clean this out. Alright guys, I got my tuning kit. So, like I said, one is running a 35. The next size down I have in my kit is a 32. So we're going to go with that one. And then for this one, it was a 102 and we're going down to a 100. So if you see here, I don't know if this is, my Git wasn't like this, it came with the whole thing. So you need to hold this with, I use an adjustable wrench and then a screwdriver. Takes this part out, like so. Make sure you hold everything real tight because these are brass and it'll strip really easy. So once you take that part out, set that to the side. See, we got my 100. And then it goes back down in there, same way. I don't know if you can see on the camera or not, but then just make sure you snug that down. Don't get crazy with it. So snug that back down. One thing I'm gonna do before I start putting that back is I'm gonna give it a little squirt. Make sure it's good. Okay. So like I said, I'm gonna put that back in there. Like so. I'm going to take my adjustable wrench, make sure it's good and snug on there, and then I'm just going to snug it down real good with a screwdriver. Like I said, don't go crazy with this, just nice and snug, and you'll be good to go. So that's the 100 in there, and then the other jet, like I said, is going to be a 32. So I'm going to spray some cleaner in the carb, make sure that's good to go. My float bowl doesn't look too bad. There's some sediment in there, could be causing problems, so junk down in there. I want to make sure it comes loose. Alright, so we got that all cleaned up. This carb is still fairly new, so I'm not really completely taking everything apart and cleaning it. You may need or want to. And of course, make sure you use the new jets instead of the old ones like I almost did. And screw it back down in there. And just as the first time, make sure that you're getting it tight, but you don't need to go crazy. Just nice and snug. You don't want to strip it. They are brass, so they will strip very easily if you're not careful. Alright, there we go. Then we put the bowl back on. Make sure we are putting it the correct way, whichever way that may be. There we go. I'll figure this out eventually. So I should let you guys know I'm a mechanic by trade, so I feel that I'm fairly mechanically inclined. However, I'm not a motorcycle mechanic. So a lot of this is still new to me. It's kind of why I make videos. A lot of this stuff helped me out, but it's also good sometimes that I don't do everything 100% correct, because you can learn from my mistakes. If you watch my GY6 wire tuck, you'll see exactly what I mean. There was definitely some learning in there. All right, snug these up real good. You don't want it to leak, but you don't want to strip them out. All right, so now we're gonna put the carb back on, and then we're gonna test it out again. All right, guys, I got the carb back on, hooked everything back up. If you're running a GY6 Ruckus, super easy. Even on the Git's not too bad. I've never done it on another scooter, so I know some of them, there's some plastics move and whatnot. So now we're gonna fire the bike up. So if you're running, I'm running the stock electric fuel pump. So if you're running the stock fuel pump, this part's gonna be a little easier, because remember, we emptied out the bowl and the fuel line, so we lost all the prime. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cycle the key, and you can hear the fuel pump, and you see it pumping through the lines, but then it stops. So we're gonna turn the key off, wait a second, and we're gonna do it again. Probably gonna do that about 2 or 3 times. I'd say maybe about 3 or 4, because it just reached and I see air in there. So we're gonna do it again. So I'm gonna do this a few times, and if you've ever run out of fuel, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, the problem is gonna arise if you're using a different scooter or a vacuum fuel pump. So what you're gonna need to do is take your fuel cap off, put a rag over it, and you're actually gonna blow into the tank, and you're gonna force fuel through there. Otherwise, when you go to start it, you're gonna have a hell of a time getting started. So now we're gonna crank her up, and we're gonna hope for the best here. Let me get you set up with a tripod here. I'm gonna do it one more time.